Welcome to Empire Economics. I'm truly grateful you're here because what I'm about to show you explains why the world's wealth works the way it does. Every day, millions of people work harder, save smarter, and hustle endlessly. Yet the same families remain rich, generation after generation. It's not luck, it's not talent, and it's definitely not fair. The real reason lies inside a 300-year-old law that still quietly decides who gets rich and who never will. Once you understand it, you'll never see money the same way again. So if you believe financial power shouldn't be a mystery, hit subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment. Because today, we're uncovering the hidden system that built empires and still controls your bank account. Let's begin. Every day, millions of people work harder, save more diligently, and chase opportunities with relentless determination. Yet somehow, the same family's wealthy generation seem to stay after generation, while others struggle to build lasting prosperity. What if the answer isn't about work ethic, luck, or even talent? What if the real explanation lies buried in a 300-year-old legal document that most people have never heard of? In 1844, the British Parliament passed what seemed like a simple banking reform. Politicians believed they were solving a crisis and protecting ordinary citizens from financial chaos. Instead, they accidentally created the foundation for the most powerful wealth-building system in human history. This single piece of legislation didn't just change banking, it rewired how money itself works. And those effects ripple through every economy on Earth today. The families who understood this shift early didn't just get rich. They built empires that have lasted centuries. Meanwhile, everyone else has been playing by rules they don't even know exist. This isn't about conspiracy theories or hidden agendas. This is about understanding how legal frameworks shape economic reality, and why some people seem to effortlessly accumulate wealth, while others work twice as hard for half the results. Let's start with a number that should make you pause. When the Bank of England was established in 1694, it took over 3 centuries for banks to create their first £1 trillion. The second trillion took just 8 years. That acceleration isn't random. It's the direct result of how money creation works under laws written when horse-drawn carriages filled London streets. Here's what happened. In the 1840s, Britain faced a genuine crisis. Private banks across the country were printing their own paper money, creating chaos and instability. Sir Robert Peel's government decided to take control. They passed the Bank Charter Act, which seemed straightforward. Only the Bank of England could issue paper banknotes. Problem solved, right? Not quite. The lawmakers made a critical oversight. They banned private banks from printing paper money, but they said nothing about bank deposits. This wasn't intentional. It was simply an incomplete law. But that gap changed everything. Banks couldn't print notes anymore, but they could still create money by opening accounts and adding numbers to them. When they made a loan, new money appeared in the borrower's account. When the loan was repaid, that money disappeared. The power to create money hadn't been eliminated. It had just moved from printing presses to accounting ledgers. This distinction might sound technical, but its implications were staggering. Today, electronic bank deposits make up over 97% of all money in circulation. Cash represents less than 3%. The vast majority of money exists only as numbers in computer systems, created when banks approve loans and destroyed when those loans are repaid. Think about what this means for wealth building. When you deposit money in a bank, you're essentially lending it to the institution. The bank then uses those deposits, plus money it creates through lending, to make investments and generate returns. Meanwhile, you receive a small interest payment that rarely keeps pace with inflation. The bank profits from the spread between what it pays you and what it earns from your money. But here's where it gets interesting. Those with access to bank credit can borrow newly created money to purchase assets that appreciate over time. Real estate, businesses, stocks. As these assets increase in value, the borrowers build wealth. They're using money that didn't exist until the moment they signed the loan documents. The system literally creates purchasing power for some people while excluding others based on creditworthiness, collateral, and connections. The Genoese banking families understood this principle centuries ago. In the 15th and 16th centuries, they didn't just store money, they controlled the flow of money throughout the Mediterranean. When the Spanish Empire channeled wealth from the Americas through Genoese institutions, these families positioned themselves at the center of every transaction. They didn't just provide a service, they created the infrastructure that made large-scale commerce possible, collecting fees and building relationships that lasted generations. The same pattern emerges throughout history. The Medici family in Florence, the Rothschilds across Europe, American dynasties like the Mellons and DuPonts, each leveraged banking privileges and monetary systems to build wealth that transcended individual lifetimes. They understood that controlling money flows matters more than earning money through labor alone. Modern wealth concentration follows identical principles. Today's banking laws still reflect that 18th century framework, just updated with digital technology and global scale. The families who recognize these patterns early position themselves to benefit from systematic advantages built into the monetary system itself. This isn't about fairness or unfairness. It's about understanding how financial systems actually work beneath the surface. Most people focus on earning and saving, which are important, but the biggest wealth builders focus on accessing the money creation system itself through strategic borrowing, business ownership, and asset accumulation. The 300-year-old legal foundation still determines who can access newly created money and who cannot. Those patterns haven't changed. They've just become more sophisticated and harder to recognize. But once you see them, you can't unsee them. The most revealing aspect of this system becomes clear when you examine bank reserves. In 2007, just before the financial crisis, British banks held only £12.50 in actual reserves for every £1,000 of customer deposits. Think about that ratio. If even a small percentage of customers demanded their money simultaneously, the mathematical impossibility becomes obvious. The money simply isn't there because it was never really there to begin with. This fractional reserve system creates a fascinating paradox. Your bank balance shows numbers that represent money, but those numbers exist primarily as accounting entries. When banks make loans, they don't take existing deposits and lend them out. They create new deposit entries in borrowers' accounts while keeping the original deposits intact. Both the lender and borrower now have money that appears real on their statements, even though the total money supply has effectively doubled for that transaction. Understanding this mechanism reveals why certain investment strategies work so effectively for wealth building. Real estate provides an excellent example. When someone borrows money to purchase property, the bank creates new money for that transaction. The borrower uses newly created purchasing power to acquire a tangible asset. Over time, if property values increase, the borrower builds equity using money that didn't exist before the loan originated. Meanwhile, the original depositors still see their full balances, unaware that their money has been simultaneously lent out through the creation of new deposits. This explains why debt-financed asset purchases can generate wealth so efficiently. The borrower leverages the bank's money creation power to acquire appreciating assets. As long as the asset's appreciation exceeds the borrowing costs, wealth accumulates. The system rewards those who understand how to use leverage strategically, while penalizing those who rely solely on saving money that gradually loses purchasing power through inflation. American industrial dynasties mastered these principles during the 19th and early 20th centuries. The Mellon family built their fortune through banking, then used their financial expertise to acquire stakes in Gulf Oil, Alcoa, and major manufacturing companies. They understood that controlling money flows provided more opportunities than simply earning money through traditional business operations. By positioning themselves at the intersection of capital and industry, They could identify and fund the most promising ventures while maintaining ownership stakes that generated returns for generations. The DuPont family followed a similar trajectory. Their initial wealth came from gunpowder manufacturing, but they expanded into chemical production and eventually became one of America's largest industrial conglomerates. Their success stemmed not just from operational excellence, but from understanding how to finance growth through strategic partnerships with financial institutions. They leveraged banking relationships to fund expansion, acquire competitors, and diversify their holdings across multiple industries. These historical examples illustrate a crucial principle that remains relevant today. Wealth building accelerates when you understand how money creation works and position yourself to benefit from it. This doesn't require unethical behavior or exploitation. It simply means recognizing that financial systems operate according to specific rules, and those who learn these rules can make more informed decisions about borrowing, investing, and asset allocation. The lesson here isn't that the system needs to be overthrown or that these patterns are inherently wrong. The lesson is that financial literacy includes understanding how money creation actually works, not just how to budget or save. The families who built lasting wealth didn't do so by accident. They recognized the mechanics behind monetary systems and positioned themselves accordingly. This knowledge doesn't guarantee wealth, but ignorance almost certainly guarantees you'll miss opportunities that others see clearly. The 300-year-old laws that shaped modern banking continue to influence who accumulates assets and who doesn't. Understanding these patterns gives you a clearer picture of how capital flows through the economy and where positioning yourself might make the biggest difference. The next time you hear about overnight success stories or wonder why some investments seem to work effortlessly for certain people, remember that the foundation was laid centuries ago. The rules haven't changed much. Only the technology has improved. If this gave you a new perspective on how wealth actually builds over generations, hit subscribe. History holds more lessons than most people realize. This content is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice.